we're going to have a biopolymer session here. If I could ask both Steve and Lars to come up, and I'll do a quick introduction of each right now. Lars Borger is the Vice Director and the Head of Global Marketing of Biodegradable Polymers for BASF. The topic is Bioplastics-Myths, Realities, and Opportunities. It's actually Dr. Borger. He's a specialist in compostable polymers, and he's going to give a view with Steve here on what bioplastics can and cannot do. Steve Davies is the Director of Public Affairs, spoken at Plasticity a number of times from NatureWorks, and their brand is BGO. He leads marketing and public affairs globally for NatureWorks. They had a great event in Orlando a few weeks ago that I was at, all about the biopolymers and how we can bring them into the cradle-to-cradle environment and the challenges and, again, opportunities. So if you both come up, Lars, I'll let you begin with the talk.
Okay, hello, it's a pleasure to be here. It was a very interesting discussion so far. Now we want to switch to bioplastics, and just to make sure that we talk about the same topics, we're going to have some introductory slides, but the main topic will be, of course, covered during the presentation. So what you see here on this picture is actually a hopefully typical situation. There's a mother teaching her daughter how to cook things, and they look very nice. It's fresh, maybe organically grown food. But what you also see is actually you have to do something with it, because there is not everything can be eatable and be part of this nice salad, but also there is some waste. So what do you do with this waste, and how can you treat it the right way? We just learned beforehand there's a need for maybe learning from Mother Nature. Let's see what we can do there. Okay, but starting with this is familiar to many of you, I assume. What we're having here is more this landscape of everything in terms of bioplastics and plastics at all. So you can distinguish between two things. One is the origin of the plastics, which is on the axis here. Is it fossil-based, so is it from, let's say, former biomaterials? That's mean also oil and gas. Or is it renewable materials? That is one axis. And the other axis is it biodegradable or non-biodegradable. Majority of today's plastic, that is 99% of everything that is used with an increasing amount, is here. It's neither biodegradable nor is it bio-based. So, but there are plenty of plastics coming up. Some which are conventional plastics, more or less, but on a bio-based basis. The most famous and prominent example is bio-PE, of course. And then there is plastics which are biodegradable and renewable. So, and our two companies are representing some of these areas. Whereas we have to say and confess that part of all products still are fossil-based, but we are working very heavily on that to get them a reasonable amount into that area as well. So, this is just to make sure that we talk about the same things. So, bio-based, biodegradable, per se, are not connected at all. This is a question of actually chemistry. Biodegradable means simply it can be eaten by fungi or bacteria which are weakness, whereas bio-based can be. Okay, that's important to know. So then we talk about the same. Then I want to show you briefly what is biodegradable. I'm not sure if we can get this video started. It's just showing you biodegradable means simply we are creating food for bacteria, nothing else. So this is plastics which can be eaten. And like you put an apple into the soil, you will see that more or less the bacteria say, okay, if you human being don't want to consume this apple, then we will do it, and then they start biodegradation. Maybe you can try to press a button here, or press on this picture. Each of these pictures represents one day, and you see this is what's happening. So if you have the right products, and they are certified, then they will disappear. What has been happening is that simply the bacteria and the fungi have converted those materials into their own food. That means actually into CO2 and water, plus also their poo, which they use. But this poo is very helpful because it's helping to grow plants. That is what we call soil, or what we call compost. Okay, so that is important to understand. This is biodegradation, which is happening. So sorry. Where does it make sense? How do we see ourselves? And there we talk about circular economy. So we're very happy also working together with Larry and with McDonough Innovation. To create a concept is basically the basis for circular economy. As you can see that in two different circles. One is because of biomass circle. This is what we're talking about here. So let's start here on the left-hand side. You have to grow biomass, either for food or for different applications. This has to be harvested, and then finally the biomass needs to be transported to somewhere to be used. That's packaging. Yeah? So look at this fish, very valuable. So this fish needs to be transported where it's used. And then finally, there's always remains, as you've seen on the first slide. These remains need to be put back into the circle. We also learned earlier, so please separate the organic waste from the rest, because then you can treat it rightly. And the biggest source for CO2 is actually the biomass or organic waste, which is not good. It's very important. So what do biopolymers are useful for? We don't say that they're useful for everything, so we will not be able to create such an intelligent fridge with that stuff, or it doesn't even make sense, maybe. Yeah, but it does make sense to use it to facilitate exactly this circle. So, what we are doing actually, we are trying to do mulch films in China. I'll talk about this. Mulch film is helping to grow biomass. Then we're creating packaging which will transport actually that biomass to its use. Then we are creating systems to collect the organic waste, bring it to compost, and the compost can be used as organic fertilizer to start the circle again. So that is really something very good, and we are using the help of nature, because nature is actually so far really advanced in recycling. They are very good. You put a very complicated thing, like for example metal, and will be degraded and doesn't. Just to give you examples of these three regions, I would like to show you the first example. So it's agriculture mulch film. That is among the top 3 problems in China. It's called white pollution, and you see that on the left-hand side. What you see here is actually the result of now 30 years of usage of mulch film, polyethylene, very thin. What happens is that out of these 1.3 million tons of polyethylene, I would say hardly anything is really recycled or managed in the right proper way. So what you're seeing here, if you go to rural China, you will see that there is polyethylene everywhere. It's starting to damage the soil, it's starting to decrease in yields, and it's recognized by the Ministry of Agriculture as one of the top problems. 1.3 million tons of polyethylene every year. So what can you do about it? There's 2 solutions, no more than that, only 2 solutions. One is you make polyethylene film thicker, so thick that you can really recover it, but then you also have to build the infrastructure for recycling and so on. Or you keep it that thin, but make it biodegradable, because then you can put it into the soil. Actually in Europe these days there's a discussion about the fertilizer regulation to really put in biodegradable mushroom as a soil improver. So it's not only harming, it's not only not harming, but it's even improving. That's one example. Where it makes sense. The other example, sorry, you see this guy here? So convenience, grab this often. Yeah? Convenience is very important, and one of the most obvious examples of convenience over sustainability is having this nice small single portion cups. That is creating a huge amount of plastic. It's incredible how much. And that is due to the convenience that everybody says, okay, I only want 1 cup of coffee, so I put this in, and I want whatever, I don't know this brand, so I want a Lumbo, and you want a whatever, and then they're actually creating this kind of plastic. So, that's convenience, understood, people want that, but what can you do about it? We think you cannot change this, but also recycling that is pretty complicated, let's say this way, pretty complicated, not easy, and it's basically not done, I dare to say. So, and you would not ever recover the coffee inside. So, what can you do? Can you do this whole system being biodegradable, because then you can dispose it and put it into organic recycling. It's not ideal. That makes sense. And then finally, you see that we talked about this, I don't need to talk about this. What's happening in landfilling is actually creating a lot of CO2. So you have to separate the organic waste from that. We heard this. How can you do that best? Well, our idea is you do that with plastic bags because they are very useful, that's why people use them. So, but if you can dispose it together with them, then it makes sense. So these applications which are facilitated in the circle, which makes sense, whereby biodegradable polymers are helping. Other areas where they don't make sense is something which we can discover in this area. That's it.
Thank you, Lars. Thank you for popping up my deck. One that comes up, let me just start with a huge thank you to Doug at the Plasticity Forum. As he said, we were with Doug in Rio, New York, and Hong Kong, and I'm delighted about today. I love what we put together here. Doug has framed this up as a discussion today about material solutions for undervalued resources. And I wanted to start by talking about what we really see as probably the most undervalued resource on the planet. And if I was to ask this plasticity audience what that was, I'm sure people would say plastics waste stream. That's why we're here. But I would argue, my thesis today is that really the most undervalued resource on the planet, the one that actually has a huge negative value, is carbon in the atmosphere, greenhouse gases. It's such a negative value that, as you probably know in this room, just last Friday, Earth Day, 175 nations came together to agree to reduce the creation of that raw material. And I say raw material intentionally, carbon in the atmosphere. So, amidst that background, plant nature, what does nature do? Well, we were formed some 12 years ago with a very simple mission, really, which is to turn greenhouse gas into performance products. And you've heard quite a bit from previous speakers today about learning from nature, mimicking nature, and a lot of what the Biomimicry Institute has done. Sort of explain this in simple terms. Nature doesn't look at carbon in the atmosphere as a problem, it looks at it as a resource. It's what nature uses to build trees, grow things. It's what coral reefs are made from. So that's really our thesis, that we're using the same feedstock. We're using our best technologies, as I'll explain, to make that same translation. So what Lars has done is shown you a broad four-quadrant definition of bioplastics. What I want to really do here is make sure folks are on board with the bigger picture of what we mean when we say bio-based. We mean atmospheric carbon is the feedstock. Bio-based is just one way to capture that carbon. And that can sound very abstract. Usually when I talk about translating greenhouse gases into products, some bright spark in the front row says, yes, so you mean you're making products out of thin air. And I love that. I think we really are making products out of thin air. To make it less abstract, here's probably the biggest single downstream product that our customers make globally. You can go around the world and find this simple plastic cup, made out of NGO, compostable, where it needs to be, the value proposition you just heard from Lars. So how do we do it? No mystery. I don't mean to make this sound esoteric. How do we capture carbon? Well, today we do it by growing plants. Plants harvest carbon as they grow. They grow plant sugars. We harvest their sugars. We ferment them like we can beer or wine, but we don't make alcohol. We make a green building block, lactic acid, that your body makes. You muscle burn after a workout, that's lactic acid. We've industrialized that. We make a fermentation and we turn that green building block into a plastic that, because of this basically carbon argument, is 100% bio-based and can be compostable. So I like this cartoon, if you will, because it makes a bigger point. If that's your real feedstock carbon in the atmosphere, you have to ask, why would you go this long-winded agricultural route to capture it? How do you do it directly? And that's what we're really excited about. What we're looking at and investing in, with some help from the Department of Energy, the US Department of Energy, a $2.5 million grant, is how we go direct from greenhouse gas to NGO, one step. So instead of growing plants, harvesting, taking sugars, fermenting sugars, we're working now on what are simple bacteria that digest methane, and the product they make is that same lactic acid. So we make exactly the same amount of polymers. This can sound a bit abstract, and I wouldn't pretend this is going to happen tomorrow. We're doing this on a lab scale now. We're investing $1 million in the US at our headquarters to put in place a fermentation lab to begin to scale this up. So it's still some years away. But just to go back to this biomimicry argument heard today, these bacteria, the thanatropes, the translators are going to struggle with this term, but what are they? Let me just kind of make this real for you. They've long existed in nature, and let me give you a working example of what they are. I think everyone's familiar with this environmental disaster, 2010 Gulf oil spill. Huge amounts of methane and oil put into the Gulf. The untold story here, well captured by National Geographic, some beautiful visuals. Basically, what happened is very quickly, as methane spewed out of the ground into the ocean, the natural population of bacteria in the ocean water bloomed, digested that methane. It was basically Mother Nature self-regulating. So we went from this, a couple of months, to something much better looking. Scientists did, and from the scientists there were a much more scientific explanation of what went on there. But it was basically ecology self-regulating. It's back to the bionuclear argument. Nature does this all the time. If something's abundant, methane, nature grows something to digest it. That's our approach as well. So let's go after methane. Our approach is, and what we're doing with the Department of Energy is helping the US to use biogas, locally sourced biogas from landfill, from wastewater treatment plants. We don't really care. It's methane for us to turn into this performance plastic. So where we are in the market, broad packaging markets. Some of these are passing inside the PSF. There are many things in the film space, for example. Some of you happily visited our booth yesterday at CHINAPLAS and got to see some of the products in Japan, sold around the world. This is what our customers are making. One of the newest applications for us, the one that really excites us, we heard from SBE this morning about the interest in 3D. 3D is making a huge difference already today. And this is really interesting for us because this isn't about a green plastic. It's about performance plastic that prints, high-resolution prints, and literally built in 3 dimensions. And what we love is this is literally making a difference today. This is a wonderful example that we saw at the conference we organized 3 weeks ago, where low-cost mechanical hands are being printed for kids, either born without hands or fingers, or have that lost in an accident. And there's a whole volunteer network now that is providing these 3D print designs for free and use them to make a real difference. Again, our plastic, and this is what happens organically, just simply because of the properties of this bio-based plastic. So, just to move on and wrap this up quickly, I want to come back to the landscape of our startup. All of those applications I showed you across all the markets share one common denominator. And I make this point to the plasticity audience because they tend to focus on recycle, recycle, recycle. Rightfully, we need to improve our recycling infrastructure. But there's a huge untold story with any plastic, and I'm showing you some of the big 3 commodity plastics here. This has nothing to do with recycling. This is the environmental burden of simply making them. That every time one makes a kilo of, say, polystyrene, there are 2 to 3 kilos of CO2 hit in the atmosphere, going back to the global warming story. This is not well recognized. And my purpose here is not to put down conventional polymers. I came out of this industry, and these are excellent materials. The point is, I think we need to look more holistically at plasticity, not only recycling, but the entire life cycle of plastics. What they're made from, how they're made, what the overall impact is on the environment, not only after use, as visceral as it is to see plastics floating in seawater, it's a huge issue, as well as the impact of making them. And my point here, of course, is that because we've captured atmospheric carbon to make India, it's not yet greenhouse gas neutral, we're working on that, it's far and away the lowest carbon footprint, just in the way it's made. So, real quick, just to wrap up, one more slide here. We've talked a lot, I've talked a lot in the last 10 minutes about where our stuff comes from. I think we need to be doing plasticity is adding that to our normal discussion of where our stuff goes when we're done with it. So a lovely graphic here. If folks, some of you in the audience may know the story of stuff written by Greenpeace activists. The US statistic that's scary. Every individual in the US wheels to the curb every day about 2 kilos of what they think of as waste. We think of it as a resource in this room. That's the opportunity. We work with the Credit Innovation Institute, all of our areas are credit certified, and we use that mentality to look at how do we draw a hard line around landfill, a firewall, and what are the options to stop going to the landfill? That's from mechanical recycling, to chemical recycling, to the organic options that Lars mentioned, compost, anaerobic digestion, and of course, as a last resort, energy recovery. So what we look at is incumbent plastics to some extent, statistic 14% maybe are recycled. Typically can't access chemical recycle because of poor yields, no organic solution. What we are doing with India to check those boxes, and an awful lot of my work and my passion is using that from a checkbox that, yeah, this can be done, it can be recycled, to actually getting it recycled. And hopefully we have a chance, Doug, in the Q&A to get into what we're doing in Taiwan, North America, and Europe on that. Of course, it is also composting as a huge value proposition for us in key markets. That's where our path across from BSF, and it's critical. But because of the properties of our material, it's going into some applications where composting is really irrelevant and not what should be done with it. So I'll wrap up there. I want to make sure there's some time for discussion.
Okay, I'm going to start as a confused consumer because I walk into a store and I see bio-based, biodegradable, plant-based, bio-recycled, bio-compost. What do I buy? What is good use for material if we're a consumer? How do we know what is maybe bio-based but should be recycled, or what is bio-based that should be composted? And do our systems in each country or city we live in have the capacity to do either of those things? So maybe you can each touch on this.
Sure, I'll jump in first, Lars. I think we, and most of our industry colleagues, feel pretty strongly that this composting, biodegradability, and value proposition is critical with very targeted applications. And that application, as Lars showed very visually, is when the plastic can aid, it's an assistant tool to divert organics from landfill. Be it lawn and leaf waste, developed countries, be it kitchen waste, food waste, all that goes in the landfill. So kick off, Doug, it makes methane 23 times more potent greenhouse gas than CO2. That organic should not go in the landfill. It's a valuable resource. So that sort of application is where compostability absolutely makes sense. What we find the challenge for the industry is this biodegradability value proposition is so sexy that many brands rush to market all and everything biodegradable, which is really frustrating for the industry, frustrating for the consumer, it's misleading, and increasingly there are, especially in North America and Europe, sort of regulations, laws being put in place that are not claiming that, and A, there's no infrastructure, or B, it's irrelevant, and we welcome that, and it's what we need to say.
So, yeah, basically everything said, I would like to add that, okay, talking about the Western consumer, there is the symbols which you have seen on one of the slides which I showed, which tell you if it's compostable or not, and if it can be run or not. So in principle, there is another sign, but I do agree there is a lot of confusion because there are so many signs. So really, there is a big thing which we need to tackle, and you mentioned that earlier. There's a green component, which is the companies, the government, and the consumer, which have to work together. And here we are in constant discussion with the governments to help and to make it more easy for the consumer to understand what needs to go where. But I would like to make one point very clear. When we talk about this, the question comes very much from a person who's living in that area of the world which is having the infrastructure. So that is not the truth for almost all people on Earth. So we have to be very disillusioned. In some areas, there are very sophisticated people, like some very sophisticated children who already know, okay, there's 5 bits, I will put it here and there. They know it already. So they just need to understand the symbol, they will do right. And then there is the growing economies where this is not yet the case, where it's about education. And then there's a large set of societies where there's no infrastructure. There we have to discuss what to do there.
So if we're using biodegradable material in a product, and the city or the community doesn't have the infrastructure to biodegrade it, what do we do?
I mean, you said it already.
Basically, the challenge that we all face to get the industry to be able to support that digestion back into the system.
You're right. So basically, just before you answer, I'll just briefly say, of course, it still can be recycled, yeah, if there was the infrastructure for that. mostly it's not. It can be burned, of course, incineration does work, because the calorific value is existing and good. So, but you can, I would say it differently. I mean, depending on the country, there is maybe more infrastructure for composting and for recycling. So it's really a question of educating and sending it into the right system.
Was that a labeling issue? Are there labeling challenges?
Yeah, let me give you a US example of the labeling issue, because as an industry, we're working very hard to make sure that the labeling is accurate. And to your original question, if a compostable product is being sold in the infrastructure, then it should not be labeled. And we work with our US colleagues with the Sustainable Packaging Coalition in the US, who are working on a validated consumer panel tested label. We have one now on how to recycle, they're also going to have one on how to compost. And it cannot be used unless there is the FTC, Federal Trade Commissions, allow acceptable limit of compost access. 60% of the population has to have access to compost for it to be an authentic claim. So the simple answer is that it shouldn't be labeled as compostable if the infrastructure is not there. And increasingly we're making that happen as an industry working with
So this is, to me, a chicken and egg issue, because if you have more plant-based biomaterial in the infrastructure, then there's justification to get the composting infrastructure so you can label it as compostable. But if there's not enough, and there are not enough brands using that material, and the infrastructure isn't developed in that city or country yet, then you can't label it as such, and you kind of get slowed down. Is that a problem?
It is, and I would say that's why we talk about it needs to be also linked to applications. So again, the overwhelming thing is actually that you want to separate the organic waste. So all the applications we talked about are kind of linked to something where you have organic waste being still with the plastic or some remains of that, some of the plastic. So it makes then sense to put this all together into the food experiment. And then questions when you do consumer tests and ask them, okay, what do you think? Where should it go? It's very interesting to find out. And people would kind of automatically say, okay, well, this should be kind of going with the organics, shouldn't it? And then probably we can set on this, and then it would be more easy, and we must make it more easy for people. They should not have to read 50 labels to find out what they should do. We should link it to the actual, to the application. And this is a long way to go, I would say.
Yeah, Doug, I would add, the implicit in your question put together from many audiences is the assumption that bioplastic means it's being used as biodegradable. And for us, 9 times out of 10, that's not the case. Compostable products is a key market for us, but more and more, the product is being used because it functionally works better in the right application than the materials replacing. And a perfect example of this, we have many brands around the world, for whatever reason, trying to bash out of plastic, but they want to stop using polystyrene. There's styrene concerns, they're concerned about supply availability, whatever. So they found with our plastic a specific application, and I'll make it very specific, yogurt packaging. There's a packaging technique in the industry called foam fill seal, very highly efficient packaging. The material we sell works better than the polystyrene, so they're not using it because it's degradable, it's not. And the unfortunate reality is most yogurt cups out there, and we've tested this with the recycling industry in the US and now in Canada, those polystyrene yogurt cups not being recycled today, unfortunately. So the leading brands recognize that. They want to use a more responsible, low-carbon footprint raw material that addresses safety issues for them as well. And they're working on the recycling. They're working on recycling pilots. So they don't even tell the consumer they're doing it, because the consumer it's a little bit irrelevant right now. It's not marketed as bioplastic container at all. It's just marketed as good, and in this case, yogurt. The consumer would have to buy. So more and more things. I made this comment at dinner, and I saw some folks confused, because I didn't say it well, some folks like, we succeed, I think, in marketing sustainable packaging by not marketing it at all. By marketing functional material at the right price, and then people will use it, yes, because check those boxes of works right price, and check the box, of course, why wouldn't you use it? You can post it in the right scenario, or low carbon.
Or it can be recycled with volume. So if Dan or someone has a bring back program where they get a lot of volume, then you can recycle it. Okay, question from the table, from the audience. Anyone? Bio? There's a question down here.
Hey guys, my name is Wade. I'm from Mango Materials, company based in California that produces PHA. A couple questions. Number one, are these innovative products that people are looking for, are they driven internally at large corporates like BASF or like places like P&G, or is it coming from external pressure from, let's say, shareholders or customers who are clamoring for these types of products? Number two, if these materials don't end up in the collected waste stream, if they end up like on the side of the road or in the oceans, what's the end of life option for a material like PLA?
So, first of all, I think this was not invented by pressure from they were really invented because companies, well, our company at least I think the same for you, thought it's a good idea. So it's not really pressure from outside. But you see that resonates in the market. That's one thing. The other thing, the more complicated part of the question is actually the littering which you're addressing here. So officially, of course, we all want that there is no littering. Yeah? But I think Larry pointed out that unfortunately the fact that it's not the case. So what are we doing about this? I think one good thing, which is just a side effect, is that materials which are certified compostable are also not harmful. And that's, I can give you one example. Maybe in this few minutes we have. Yeah? Yesterday I gave a presentation which probably was much more important than this one today, I'm sorry, because I gave a presentation in the kindergarten of my daughter. There were 15 small kids, age 5 on average, from 15 nations basically. That's the beauty about living in China. And I was starting showing them a bag. And I said, okay, what is it? And they said, yeah, plastic bag. Okay, what do you think? Is plastic good or bad? And out of these 15, exactly one race said it's good, 14 said it's bad. I said, okay, why is plastic bad? Because it's killing animals. That's the statement. So they're very concerned. They said it's killing turtles, it's killing dolphins, we've seen that, it's also polluting the soil. So that's the perception of the future generation of plastic. So that is a matter of fact. We can think whatever we like, but this is reality. Out of 15, 14 think it's a bad thing to have plastic. So, and why? Because there is littering. Okay, so we have to face the fact that there will be littering probably also in the future. So then the best we can do is to create something which is not harmful then when it's released to the outside. And to the best of today's knowledge, that is the case with the products we are selling. Although we will never sell it on that argument, to make that very clear, but it is a side effect which is not cemented.
So yeah, and as I did start with giving a quick call out to Mango Materials, if somebody else is recognizing, I gave NatureWorks as a proof point of what we're doing with methane. These guys are doing exactly the same thing negative for plastics. So it's really an industry move in terms of recognizing what's that real feedstock you're after and you get it more efficiently. So thanks for what you're doing. To your question, I think what's driving big brands, it's their own desire to lead in the consumer product space. They can lead by giving products, their consumer products that are safer, better, more environmentally responsible. Safety is a huge driver, so that's what's driving them. At the same time, because they're huge brands with a lot of brand equity, they will move very slowly, and the performance absolutely has to work at the right price. And back to my point again, you've got to get that nailed, and not just sell green plastic. It's pretty meaningless.
Time for one more? Over here? Oh, sorry. We were back there. We'll squeeze one more. Last year, Tuesday.
First of all, thank you for the speech. My name is Antoine. I co-founded CEO Packaging, so supplying integrated packaging for the F&B industry here in China and Dubai. And I've been importing NGO products from Taiwan for quite a while now. And from what I know, you guys have a patent on the PLA material or the process of producing that. And one of the questions is that when we wanted to bring PLA to China, it was very difficult to find suppliers because they're all saying it's produced in Taiwan because the raw material is imported from the US. So my question is, if you really want to solve the whole plastic problem and maybe we should start thinking of localizing the production, is that something you have in mind? Because right now it's only in Taiwan that produces PLA. Do you have any plans to produce that in China or maybe?
Yeah, I appreciate your point. For us, key. China is a very strategic market, and one reason we're pleased that I'm bringing out plasticity here, have this discussion right here on CHINAPLAS. I don't know if the question was specific to localizing the conversion. Right now, all of our innovators manufactured in the US. A huge portion of it is exported to this region, starting with Japan, Korea, Taiwan, and now really we want to support this local Chinese market interest. If you're talking about actually making the India grades locally, we've had a tremendously detailed look at that and continue to look. And there's three things that we can look at, which is local incentives, local feedstocks, and local market. The last two of those are very strong here. What we've not seen compared to other geographies is frankly chase us with huge incentives and chase many in the green tech industry, if you want to call it that, is the incentive structures to come and build. Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia have very aggressive incentive packages to get foreign investment. We haven't yet seen that from China, but we're very interested.
Okay, there were two over here. Maybe we can ask them at the same time.
Hello, I'm from WWF China and I'm a senior consultant. I wonder if you have done any cost-benefit analysis, because how cheap or how expensive will determine how quickly can be applied in most developing countries, this technology.
Maybe I can answer to that, because what we have done lately was a study coming back to the large film application of biodegradable in China. So we've done this panel review was with Chinese professors looking into the cost, because everybody's talking about the high cost of biopolymers, which is in these cases where it really makes sense to apply biodegradable materials is misleading to a high degree, because you are comparing a non-solution, the cause of the problem, which is polyethylene, to the materials which are in the solution. So that's unfair. But whatever, even in that case, if you calculate it, and if you take the system cost approach, complete system cost approach, you can say that for this kind of application where you're creating this kind of mess in the soil, you're already profitable after 5 to 9 years already. So it's cheaper to use it today. So it's very hard to convey this message into, for example, farmers' minds in these cases, because they are seeing their profit year by year. This is not a mistake of them, it's just normal. And that is why it's complicated to enter the market. But in many ways, it's already today cheaper to use material. And in your case, it's already cheaper to use bio-based materials in some aspects.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I think there are some good examples. We have customers, for example, with BSF, with case studies with, say, sports venue, diverting all of its waste from landfill in developed countries with landfill tipping fees. If you look at the total system cost, the sports venues have not been shy, the sports teams, to say we're saving money because we don't have to pay for there yet. We're making compost with it, bringing it back, and using it in our brands. Simple examples. In non-compostable markets, we have a simple example I already used, which is the yogurt packaging. The leading global dairy brand, which is using this packaging, because without looking at even the externalities, they don't design it to be compostable. Without even looking at anything on simply the cost of the package, because it was stronger, thinner, lighter plastic, they save money and have less breakage for yogurt and shipping. So for them, it's very simple. So again, it's I think you made the point. These plastics are unique materials with unique functional properties. We're not expected to do everything. It's a question of finding where the functional price performance match. And that's why I think it's an industry we can really understand well.
Okay, I think we'll leave it at that. Lars and Steve, thank you very much. You'll be around for the day and lunch, so plenty of time to Q&A, and we'll get moving to the next talk. Thank you very much.